The Big 12 is going to benefit from a rule change from the College Football Playoff Committee. While so far that's 5+7 format is not official. We don't know it's official yet. The management committee, College Football Playoff Management Committee approved it. Now we need the CFP board to approve it. And I think when that happens, when Kirk Schultz says, fine, and the 5+7 is installed, the Big 12 is going to benefit greatly because now with the death of the Pac-12, we're deciding that 7 at-large teams can make it in, and that gives one more spot for the Big 12 to not just get 2 teams in, which was probably going to be typical, but now your shot at 3 is a lot greater. Here's a good example. Let's look at 2022, the final AP poll of 2022. TCU is obviously in a 12-team playoff. Utah, you are also in a 12-team playoff, and Kansas State is in a 12-team playoff. In 2022, by virtue of the fact that now there is one less conference champion that's going to get in, those 3 teams easily, like no debate, get into the college football playoff. That's in 2022. What about 2021? Let's take you back a little bit. Baylor, they were a top 5 AP poll finisher, period. They get into the college football playoff. Oklahoma State, who lost the Big 12 championship, they get into the college football playoff. Look at Cincinnati, who went 13-1. Now, look, I'll give you this. I mentioned Utah in 2022 and Cincinnati in 2021. I know they weren't in the Big 12, but I'm pitching you a scenario in which there could be teams. Like, listen to this. Cincinnati at 13-1, Baylor at 12-2, Oklahoma State at 12-2. That's a real thing that could happen in the Big 12, say, next year. Obviously, Baylor and Cincinnati are down, but listen, let me change the teams. Listen, bear with me here. Stay with me. Kansas State finishes 13-1. That's a college football playoff team. Oklahoma State finishes 12-2. That's a college football playoff team. Utah finishes 12-2. That's a college football playoff team. And back in 2021, Oklahoma also went 11-2. Utah went 10-4. We are opening the door. We are opening the door for the Big 12 to get not just 2 or 3, but maybe in a crazy nuts year with the way this thing is built, with the way the schedule is, 4 teams in the college football playoff. You're just saying, Drake, how is that possible? 4 teams in S to Okonomia? Right. It would take some finagling. I can give you 3 pretty easily, right? The 5+7 model, 7 at-large bids, and you already get 1 team into the playoff. You already get 1 team into the playoff based on the conference champions. So say that Oklahoma State goes, 12-0 in the regular season, goes to the Big 12 championship. They lose the Big 12 championship to a 12-0 Colorado, right? And I'm not even looking at the schedule here. I'm giving you all hypotheticals, but just bear with me for this. In that scenario, 12-1 Colorado and 12-1 Oklahoma State certainly make it in. Colorado being a Big 12 champion, they're going to get undefeated Colorado at 13-0. They're going to get in, and 12-1 Oklahoma State, they're going to get in. Well, then what if you're like, hey, wait a second, we got this team that was tied, got kicked out of Kansas State finished at 11-1, and they got kicked out of the Big 12 championship game, but they're 11-1. We can't let them out, right? We can't leave them out. So yeah, you got to let them in. And you're like, hey, well, Utah's 10-2 back here. And they're a really good 10-2. Can we give them the last at-large bid? Obviously, there'll be a conversation. It depends on what happens in the SEC. It depends on what happens in the Big 10 or the ACC. We already know the Big 12 is valued higher than the ACC. You got a leg up there. The Big 10 and the SEC could eat each other alive. That's true. 16 teams, though, a non-divisional format. There's a way the schedules line up to the Big 12 having a couple of teams undefeated in the conference championship game, which doesn't often happen in the SEC, by the way. A couple of teams undefeated in the conference championship game, and then a couple of teams behind them with 1 loss. In that scenario, the Big 12, with an added at-large team in the college football playoff, has a real good shot at getting not just 1 or 2 or even 3, but 4 teams in. Hey, look. You're screaming, you're throwing things, your kid's crying in the back because you're thinking there is no way the Big 12 could ever get 4 teams in, and you're a dreamer for saying it. You're right, buddy. You are right. What about 3? 3 is great. If there are 4 power conferences in college athletics, and the Big 12 gets 3 teams in the college football playoff, making up a 4th of the CFP, that is awesome. That is awesome. We already know the champion of the conference gets in. If the loser of the conference championship game is also going to get in, the way the format's set up with 7 at-large bids, there is no way. There will never be a season. There will never be a season where the Big 12 doesn't get 2 in. It won't have their 12 teams. There will never be a scenario where the Big 12 doesn't get 2 in. That should not happen. You could make the case This would be the lone year where it's possible, because the way that Oklahoma State's non-conference evened out, the number 2 team in the Big 12 won't finish as a top 12 team, the regular season at least. So yes, possible, but I'm saying it's never going to happen. With 2 teams guaranteed a spot, then all I'm asking is somebody to go 11-1 and miss the conference championship game, or somebody to go 10-2 and still have the resume, a Utah to go 10-2 and have the resume to finish at 11th in the country. Looking at the recent AP polls, Utah, 10 wins, 10th in the nation in 2022. That's pretty feasible. Ole Miss in 2021, 10 wins. They finished 11th. They were in the top 10 going into the Sugar Bowl. They lost to Baylor. Utah that season at 10-4. They finished 12th in the country. We have seen a plethora of teams win 10 games and be in the top 10. Win even like 9 games in the regular season and be teetering on that line. That gives me confidence that with an added at-large team, it's going to benefit the Big 12, who is bound to have fringe teams. Sure, but now there's one less team on the bubble because the Pac-12 doesn't have an automatic bid. When Kirk Schultz says, fine, whatever, you guys win, I'm going to do what's right for college football and go to the 5+7 format, 5 conference champions, basically 4 conference champions, the conference champion of the best at large, whatever the verbiage they end up wanting to use for that is, and then 7 other teams. I'm confident at least 2 of those teams are going to be Big 12. And yes, in a crazy year, and I know the stars have to align, but there could be 4. And I would like that very much. This change, 5+7, is great for the Big 12. You know, it's not great for the Big 12. Basketball officiating. Never really has been. Welcome to the league, new guys. Get used to it. TCU, let's talk about it. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Jace Medical. Thank you to our friends over at Jace Medical for sponsoring Locked On and Locked On Big 12. I know we came for sports talk, but let's talk about the reality, crazy realities of life for a second. According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in a decade. This is scary. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if a loved one got sick while there's a supply chain issue. Thankfully, we'll be okay with Jace Medical. That Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat anything pretty much, a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinuses, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. Visit jacemedical.com. Complete your physician encounter today. It'll be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. Save money. Could help save your life. Never been more important to prepare than today. Go to jacemedical.com. Use code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. jacemedical.com. Use code LOCKED on today.